Welcome to the Texas Go Radio Show. We're going to dive in a little bit. I'm going to be asking a question. Who was the United States' first serial killer? Alright, so this says Herman Webster Mudgett, also known as Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, or H.H. Holmes, is widely considered to be the first known serial killer in the United States. Holmes was active between 1891 and 1894, and his most notorious crimes took place in Chicago around the time of the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition. Alright, so reportedly, he was killing people between 1891 and 1894. So, let's who were the brothers who cut open chests and put rocks in them? Yeah, the Harp brothers. Let's see. University of Pittsburgh. Nope. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, the Harp brothers. Let's just see. Does this say? The Harp brothers were America's first recorded serial killers, and their murders are proof that serial killing didn't get off to a slow start. You wouldn't call the Harp brothers pioneers as America's first recorded serial killers. However, they definitely started what would become a long and twisted history of people notorious for killing sprees. I'm just looking for... Okay, so let's just go back, right? Since we know their names now. When did the Harp brothers kill people? 1797. So almost a full 100 years before Hunter Hearst Helmsley showed up. That wasn't his name, Triple H. H.H. Holmes showed up because he was killing people in the late 1800s. So 100 years before serial murders and atrocities, sometime during 1797, the Harps began a vicious crime spree through Tennessee, Kentucky, and Illinois. The Harps later confessed to the killings of a confirmed 39 people, but the estimated combined total, including unknown victims, may number more than 50. Legends of America. Murderpedia. Did not know that was a thing. Murderpedia. It won't let me click on it. There we go. Murderpedia has thousands of hours of work behind it. To keep creating new content, we kindly appreciate any donation you can give to help the Murderpedia project stay alive. We have many plans and enthusiasm to keep expanding and making Murderpedia a better site, but we really need your help for this. Thank you very much in advance. Excuse me. Oh, check that gnarly drawing out. Micah and Wiley Harp, aka the Bloody Harps. Classification: murders. Characteristics: highwaymen and river pirates. Many historians have called them the America's first true serial killers. Number of victims: 39, 50 plus. Date of murder: late 18th century. Date of birth: Micah, 1784, and Wiley, 1750. Victims: men, women, and children. Method of murder: several methods of murder. Wow. I guess for the BTK, it would have been, what, bound, BT, I can't remember what that stands for. Location, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, and Mississippi, United States of America. Status, Mickahaw was killed in Kentucky on August 24th, 1799, while he was sentenced to death and executed by hanging in Mississippi on February 8th, 1804. Oh yeah, Mickahaw had his head cut off while he was still alive by one of his victims' husbands, if I do believe. Mickahaw Big Harp, 1748, August 1799, and Wiley Little Harp, 1750, February 8th, 1804, were murderers, highwaymen, and river pirates who operated in Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, and Mississippi in the late 18th century. Their crimes appear to have been motivated more by bloodlust than financial gain, and many historians have called them the America's first true serial killers. The Harps are said to have been brothers, though some sources say cousins, born in Orange County, North Carolina, to Scottish parents. Their father or their uncles were allegedly of Tory allegiance, who fought on the British side during the Revolutionary War. Big Harp is known to have had two wives, sisters Susan and Betsy Roberts. Little Harp married Sally Rice, daughter of a Baptist minister. Disputed claims of early lives and involvement in Revolutionary War and Indian Wars. In John Musgrave's article of October 23, 1998, in the Southern Illinois newspaper American Weekend, through thorough research, he cited the T. Marshall Smith 1855 book, Legends of the War of Independence, and of the earlier settlements in the West, that the Harps were much older than most mainstream historians have acknowledged. Smith stated he had heard stories from his grandfather, older pioneers, and those who had interviewed two of the Harp wives. One of his stories was that the Harp brothers were actually cousins, William and Joshua Harper, who would sometime later take the alias Harp, who had immigrated in 1759 or 1760 as a young age from Scotland. Their fathers were brothers, John and William Harper, who settled in Orange County, North Carolina between 1761 and 1763. The Harper patriarchs were loyal to the British Crown and were known as Royalists, Kingsmen, Loyalists, and Tories, and may also have been regulators involved in the North Carolina Regulator War. The anti-British Crown neighbors of the Harpers were known as Whigs, rebels, and patriots. Around April or May 1775, the young Harper cousins left North Carolina and went to Virginia to find overseer jobs on a slave plantation. At the outbreak of the American Revolution, little is known of the Harps' whereabouts. According to Smith, based on the eyewitness account of Captain James Wood, they joined a Tory vineyard gang in North Carolina and took part in the kidnapping of 3 teenage girls, with the 4th girl being rescued by Captain Wood. These gangs took advantage of the war by vineyarding, stealing, and murdering, and burning and destroying the property, especially farms and patriot colonists. I think I'm going to stop saying vineyards. Well, graping, you can't say the word, so I think I'm going to just say vineyard. In an interview Smith had with the Patriot soldier Frank Wood, who was the son of Captain James Wood, he revealed that he was the older brother of Susan Wood Harp, the later kidnapped wife of Mickahaw Big Harp. Frank Wood claimed to have seen the Harp brothers serving loosely as Tory militia under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Banastre Tarleton's British Legion at the battles of Blackstocks, November 20, 1780, and Cowpens, January 7, 1781. They also appeared in the same supporting role at the Battle of Kings Mountain, October 7, 1780, under British Commander Major Patrick Ferguson. These battles that the Harps supposedly participated in resulted in major Patriot victories. Following the British defeat at Yorktown in 1781, the Harps left North Carolina dispersed with their Indian alias, the Chickamauga Cherokees, to Tennessee villages west of the Appalachian Mountains. On April 2, 1781, they joined war parties of 400 Chickamauga Cherokee and attacked the Patriot frontier settlement of Bluff Station at Fort Nashboro, now Nashville, Tennessee, which would again be assaulted by them. On either July 20th, 1788 or April 9th, 1793, a Captain James Leeper was killed in the 1781 attack on the fort and may have been related to the John Leeper, who was later involved in the killing of Mickahaw Big Harp in Kentucky in 1799. Excuse me. On August 19, 1782, the Harps accompanied a British-backed Chickamauga Cherokee war party to Kentucky in the Battle of Blue Licks, where they helped to defeat an army of patriot frontiersmen. During the Harp brothers' early frontier period among the Chickamauga Cherokee, they lived in the village of Nickajack, near Chattanooga, Tennessee, for approximately 12 to 13 years. During this span of time, they kidnapped Maria Davidson and later Susan Wood, and made them their women. In 1794, the Harps and their women abandoned their Indian habitation before the main Chickamauga Cherokee village of Nickajack in eastern Tennessee was destroyed in a raid by American settlers. They would later relocate to Powell's Valley, around Knoxville, Tennessee, where they stole food and supplies from local pioneers. The whereabouts of the Harps were unknown between the summer of 1795 and spring of 1797, but by spring they were dwelling in a cabin on Beaver's Creek near Knoxville. On June 1st, 1797, Wiley Harp married Sarah Rice, which was recorded in the Knox County, Tennessee marriage records. Sometime during 1797, the Harps would begin their trail of death in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Illinois. Atrocities. As young men, the Harps lived with Renegade Creek and Cherokee Indians who committed atrocities against white settlers and against their own tribes. By 1797, the Harps were living near Knoxville, Tennessee. However, they were driven from the town after being charged with stealing hogs and horses. They were also accused of murdering a man named Johnson, whose body was found in a river, ripped open, and weighted with stones. This became a characteristic of the Harps' murders. They butchered anyone at the slightest provocation, even babies. R.E. Banton in the Ohio claims that Mickahaw Harp even bashed his infant daughter's head against a tree because her constant crying annoyed him. This was the only crime for which he would later confess genuine remorse. From Knoxville, they fled north into Kentucky. They entered the state on the Wilderness Road near the Cumberland Gap. They are believed to have murdered a peddler named Peyton, taken his horse and some of his goods. They then murdered 2 travelers from Maryland. Deaths. In July 1799, John Leeper raised a posse to avenge the murder of Miss Stegall, including Moses Stegall, the victim's husband. Leeper reached Harp first and managed to shoot Big Harp. After a scuffle with a tomahawk, Leeper overcame Harp. When Stegall arrived, he decapitated Harp and stuck his head on a pole at a crossroads still known as Harp's Head, or Harp's Head Road, in Webster County, Kentucky. By the end of their reign of terror, the bloody Harps were responsible for the known murders of no less than 40 men, women, and children. Little Harp eluded the authorities for some time using the alias John Seddon until allegedly being caught in an effort to get a reward of his own on the head of an outlaw, Samuel Mason. He was captured in 1803, tied and hanged on February 8, 1804. Harp women. According to John Musgrave, the Harp women, after cohabitation with the brothers, led relatively respectable and normal lives. Upon the death of Mickahaw Big Harp in Kentucky, Wiley Little Harp went into hiding, and their women were apprehended and taken to the Russellville, Kentucky State Courthouse and later released. Sally Rice Harp went back to Knoxville, Tennessee to live in her father's house. For a time, Susan Harp and Maria Davidson, aka Betsy Roberts Harp, lived in Russellville. Susan Wood remarried and died in Tennessee. According to Ralph Harrelson, a McLeansboro, Illinois historian, records show that on September 27, 1803, Betsy Roberts remarried, moved with her husband to Canada in 1828, had many children, and eventually the couple died in the 1860s. Cave and rock historian Otto A. Rothert believed that Susan Wood died in Tennessee and her daughter went to Texas. According to the former sheriff of Hamilton County, Illinois, in 1820, Sally Rice, who had remarried, traveled with her husband and father to their new home in Illinois via the Cave in Rock Ferry. Descendants. After the atrocities committed by the Harps, many members bearing the family name changed their name in some way to hide the heritage of their infamous ancestors. The Harps may have disguised their Tory past the Harps may have disguised their Tory past from their patriot neighbors by changing their original name of Harper, which was a common loyalist name in Revolutionary War era North Carolina. Some went by Harp, merely removing the final E in Harp, but leaving the pronunciation the same. Others changed the name significantly. Wyatt Earp is a famous example, said, though unconfirmed to have been a member of the Harp family. There are still descendants to the family today, including those who have changed their surname back to the original spelling. Appearances in literature, stage, television, and film. The Harp saga was explored in depth by noted historian Paul, I can't tell if that's an I think it's an I, Wellman in his book Spawn of Evil, now no longer in print. Edon Harp, perhaps the only Harp descendant to openly acknowledge and write about the Harp brothers. Currently, he has 2 books, Born Wolf, Die Wolf, The Last Rampage of the Terrible Harps, and Resurrection, Rebirth of the Terrible Harps, with a 3rd book being written. His short work, The True Story of America's First Serial Killers, may be as close to the truth about the story of the Harps as has been written. A graphic novel was written in 2009 by Chad Kinkle and illustrated by Adam Show called Harp, America's First Serial Killers. The Harp brothers, identified as Big Harp and Little Harp, are among the characters in the stage musical The Robber Bridegroom, adapted by Alfred Urey and Robert Waldman from the novel by Eudora Welty. In this musical, Big Harp had already been decapitated at the beginning of the story, but his disembodied head is still alive. The head is portrayed by an actor whose body is concealed behind the scenery. Robert Hayden's poem, Theory of Evil, takes the Harp brothers' crimes and Big Harp's demise as its explicit subject. In the 1941 film version of The Devil and Daniel Webster, both Harps are among the jury the devil calls, but do not appear in the original story. Big and Little Harp appeared in Disneyland's Davy Crockett Ministries miniseries. Both Harps and their descendants play a key role in the Silver John book, The Voice of the Mountain by Manly Wade Wellman. Though their real life accounts were fictionalized and morphed into more supernatural abilities, the Harp brothers were the inspiration for Big and Little Drum in Louis McMaster Bujold's The Sharing Knife Passage. Harp Brothers, Wikipedia. I think that's enough of that. That was Wikipedia, but what I read was from Murderpedia, which I did not know about until today. You're welcome for that. This is the Texas Goat Radio Show. I appreciate you listening if you made it this far. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. Comment if you will. Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, this is the Texas Goat Radio Show, first of many about this subject. As always, till next time.